I want to say a massive good evening to everybody who's locked in right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. We've been going on for weeks now, inviting amazing guests to do a Q&A live with us here at SocialFIXT. And I've been umming and ahhing. I was like, should I just message? No, let me just message. And then I was just like, do you know what? Let me just message. I messaged Patricia about 2 weeks ago. I was just like, is she going to respond? I don't know. And she did. And she is here. And it's so timely because as soon as I messaged you, you actually released your video about, you know, having your £1 million portfolio and also delving into the finances that you and your husband have together. So this is just perfect timing. You guys all know who she is. It's the amazing Patricia Bright.
Oh my gosh. Hi, it's great to be here. This is my first live, like, actually with another person ever. So
really?
I think this is really cool. Yeah. I'm an internet person who's not really an internet person. Right. It's mad. I'm so bad on social media. I like post every like 4 days or whatever. Yeah. But it's all good. It's all good.
Go, basically.
I post and go because, you know, I got these kids, I got responsibilities, I've got things I have to have moving, so I can't spend as much time as I'd love to spend on keeping up with everything that's going on.
No, definitely. All right, do you know what? I'm just going to go straight into the questions, only because I feel a real Patricia Bright fan is following the Break platform already and has already seen the countless amount of videos she's done on how she's even gotten to where she is. So we had over 300 questions.
That's a lot of questions. And I must caveat, I want to caveat, I am not a financial advisor, I'm not an expert, I'm not here to tell people what to do. What I like to do is share my experiences and just the little things that I kind of think I know and I picked up on the way. So yeah, that's what I wanted to know at first.
Definitely. You are not a financial expert, but what we do
it's
love
just my
is the journey. The journey that you've had to secure your financial freedom is what we all find admirable. And so I'm just going to get straight into it. First question, do you ever feel anxious about the fact that you now have financial freedom and £1 million portfolio?
Okay, so what is the definition of financial freedom, right? That number is arbitrary, right? And we all think, you know, I have 100 grand, I'm financially free. I have £1 million, I'm financially free. Whereas that benchmark can change. So I don't necessarily feel financially free because no, I definitely don't feel financially free. I feel equipped and I know what I need and I know what I want and I feel like I'm on a journey versus I've reached this point or I've reached a numerical point. I definitely don't feel like that yet. But do I feel anxious? No, because I now have a better understanding about, you know, finances and wealth, and also I have a better understanding about myself and what I want out of life as well.
Definitely. Perfect. Sounds so good. Okay, so in order to have been able to acquire you know, this financial freedom, being equipped and just being ready to have the responsibility of the portfolio that you have, was there a particular mindset that you adapted? Because you started off YouTube kind of just doing it off the whim because you were interested about fashion and beauty, but you didn't think anything of it. And then as you've kind of gone through your journey, you've realized actually there's money to be made, there's influence to be had. All right, let's keep going. So I guess how has your mindset adapted as your goalposts have shifted over your career so far?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about my mindset from beforehand. I've always had a mindset of abundance. I believe there's loads. We don't all have it just yet, but I always felt like everything was possible. Like if I wanted to be a multi-millionaire with 14,000 houses, I can have that. There's no excuses and no reasons why I couldn't. And I think that has got a lot to do with my upbringing. I used to say that my mum is relatively delusional, like delusional in what she thinks is possible. But I'd see her do stuff that is like, no, you shouldn't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able to achieve that. There's no chance. So seeing those things that are considered impossible happen then gave me a mindset of, of, you know what, I can do something. But even why I called the break was because when I first started like being a social media influencer, I first started, you know, being on YouTube, it wasn't meant to be a business idea or a business opportunity. And to me, it's still a passion project. But there was one girl who shared her numbers with me, right? And she gave me this number, and I've talked about this in my book, I've talked about this in my course, but she told me she was making £40,000 per month, right? And that blew my mind, because she was having it in a discussion about her other friend who's making £100,000 per month. Meanwhile, I was making like £150, and we were similar in terms of, you know, not necessarily following. Let's say she was 4 times the size of me, but I thought, well, I should be making at least a quarter of what you're making, and I wasn't. And so there was a moment which I called the break, where it changed my mindset. It elevated my mindset into what was possible for me. So because she had that number, I was like, no, I can have that number, but I wasn't aware that it was possible. But when I did know, I was able to smash those numbers and beyond.
Right. And it was
because of that moment.
So it was kind of like finally seeing that number being discussed and being exposed to the fact that people were making that, it kind of pushed you to be like, well, if she can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it too. Yeah. Do you know what? It's interesting because I guess a lot of your followers and a lot of my followers, we all come from, you know, we're either first immigrants, our parents either came from Nigeria or, you know, Africa, the Caribbean, and we're like the first in our families to either go to university, to be able to get that like career savvy job. So a lot of the times we're coming from situations where we see our parents working hard, but we're still kind of stuck in the same place, in the sense of there's still debt that's going on. We need to, as soon as we get our first job, you know, they say, you know, give your mum half of your paycheck. So it's like we're always kind of being drawn to just kind of give back to, you know, pay off the debts and pay off that kind of backlog, rather than just aspire to just, no, actually, let's get more, let's go for it. So I guess for a lot of people, it's like, how do we start to navigate from this kind of debt mindset? How do we start to evolve our income from, you know, just paying off debts to actually acquiring more opportunities to get more money? And I guess it kind of ties in with like the hustles and the side hustles.
Yeah. So to pay off debt, you need to have more wealth, right? So I think focusing on generating sustainable wealth is really important. So I'm obsessed with like education. I think going to university, if it's right for you, go, make it work, and getting a good stable job is not the worst thing in the world. And I think that a lot of us, we all want to like jump into like entrepreneurism, and we don't realize that there's some skill sets that we can pick up in the workplace. And actually all the people I know, especially from like ethnic minority backgrounds, who are long-term successful, they all had really good careers. And I understand that, like, you know, our parents struggled. I had debt collectors at my door. I remember using my student loan to pay off some of my parents' bills. And I know so many people whose parents were eating or using some of their student loans. Like, it happened.
Yeah.
I know, don't open the door, it's the bailiff. Right? I know that it's not, this happens. And so I think, you know, there is something that we do feel like we are obligated to our parents, but it is about balance. So I think that we learn how to manage our wealth and decide how much we can afford to send upwards. Because actually in other cultures, wealth does not go back up. Wealth is meant to come down. Generational wealth is for the children. So I think there's a pain point in that our parents always want us to, you know, give them a lot when they're meant to be giving us. People sell their houses for their children's university. Our parents, I mean, it's hard for them. It's definitely hard for them. Yeah. But, you know, we have to sometimes put our foot down with our family.
Right. Do you know what? I love that you could share that story, because, you know, sometimes we do see so many people just excelling in life. And, you know, when I was listening to a property podcast, at one point it said that 50% of mortgages come from the bank of mum and dad. And I was just like,
Whose bank of whose mum and dad? Yeah.
That means one or two
Yeah.
people that I speak to that says they have a house got their first, you know, deposit from their mum. And I was just like, that
Definitely.
is not my reality. So it's like,
Definitely.
how do I balance that guilt of, you know, okay, I want to help my parents, I want to help my mum because, you know, she's struggling, but I want to actually start to like build my own life and my career as well.
But this is why I think about having a budget. You can allocate a portion to giving back. So if you say, I'm going to give 5% of my income back, you can do that. But you can't just say they need money and they're like, give me money. No, you can't give them everything because it doesn't equip you. And I think that as the younger generation, it's kind of our job to inform our parents and sometimes tell them off. Like, no, you can't do that.
I agree. Right. So, you know, you mentioned you had a career in finance before you fully delved into the creative world. And I think a lot of people, young people, old people, whatever, are looking at social media right now and seeing how lucrative it can be when they embark on their creative pursuits and their passions. So there's this 9-to-5 versus entrepreneur debate. I need you to help me settle this. Is there a right or wrong way when it comes to working the 9-to-5 versus risking it all and becoming the entrepreneur that you've always wanted to be? Like, is there a way to do both, or should you stick to one to get the best results?
If you are 22, 23, 24 years old with no responsibilities, there is no reason why you can't do both. I just did a video reviewing a girl who is a chef by night, and she works in marketing in the day. So she earns a salary of 90, she's 25 years old, an African-American woman. She earns 90,000 at her salary from her job, and she earns an extra 60,000 pounds a year running her own catering and cakes business. And she's almost matching her salary. And I think the risk is people thinking you can drop everything. I worked for 5 years in a huge corporate, 5 to 6 years in corporate roles while I was doing this on the side. And I never left my job until the money I was making online was able to match and exceed my salary. I did a wise calculation to help me decide, like, when can I make this move and how long can I afford to make this move for? So if I was to leave my job, like, okay, what's my cost? How much I need to make and when do I need to make it by? So we can't just dive in like, I'm an entrepreneur. You don't have from, you know, depending on who we're talking to, not everybody has the backing of mum and dad. We don't have that security to just say, I'm leaving it all. No, there is enough time and opportunity to straddle both until one supersedes the other.
100%. Guys, free game. You can do both. You can do both. Another question. So now that, you know, I'm balancing my 9-to-5 with my side hustle, I guess it's also about understanding, all right, how do I then begin to elevate? And one of the ways that you've been able to elevate and flip your money is through property. Now, this is literally, I think 95% of the questions were like, property, literally.
Yeah. It's so interesting, right?
We did insights. So we asked a few people who signed up a few questions, and 49.1% of the people who are probably locked in today are saving towards purchasing their first property. So from uni up until you get your first graduate role, are there any tips that you could give to anyone about how they can actually start to save towards that property? Or did you just kind of get a big lump of money off one of the back of your gigs or so and then use that to kind of like put down your money? How did you kind of pace yourself to get to that goal towards dropping the cash?
So I think people think that when I bought my first property, I had a YouTube money. I didn't have YouTube money, I had a job. I had a job. So I saved, you know, my opinion is save, live very broke. You do not, you know, I talk about budgeting all the time. Budget to save for a property. If you want to buy a property, buy something affordable if you can. And also, I'm not against pooling money. So if you have a friend or a boyfriend, be careful. But
yeah,
4 people can get together and put their money together and buy an asset if they want to. Like, imagine if 4 friends had 10 grand each. They can save that in a year or in a year and a half. They can get on the property ladder. Not to say that they all move in with each other, but that's an asset that they build as a community. And this is what a lot of other communities do. I don't think you need to buy your own house. Like, get a contract signed up and do that. I think that is something, there's something in doing that if you're really keen to get onto the property ladder. But the only thing you can do is increase your income, reduce your expenses, and save your money to put a deposit down.
Literally. And how many years did it take you realistically for you to save and be like, okay, I'm ready now to start the process?
It was 4 years. So I didn't buy, I was thinking about having a house probably from the age of 20, but I didn't have the money to do that. So I bought my first, no, actually, I think I was 25. So from 20, I was saving constantly to put the deposit down for this first house. And I could have even been, you know, even more diligent. I've seen people younger than me now buy houses. Now they buy houses that are a bit cheaper, but nonetheless it can be done. Even my husband, as a doorman, he was what do you call it? He was a bouncer. Off his bouncer salary, he bought his first property. So it was possible, but he bought a place for 80,000 or 90,000 pounds. So it was much cheaper for him to save 12,000 pounds by just doing doors every night. So it's the same. It's the same principle of just increasing your earning or diversifying your earning and saving it all for one idea.
Right. And I think just for everyone tuned in, a lot of us forget that the hustle required in order to get that first property. I think we can look at your story and be like, oh my God, you're killing it. You've got so many properties. But like, are you guys ready to be a bouncer? Are you guys ready to do catering on the weekend? Are you guys ready to do warehouse packing in the evening, just to make sure that you've got a bit more coming in aside from your like normal annual salary? So that hustle is so important, and I respect you guys so much for being transparent with that. I guess as well, people kind of want to know, all right, I know I need to save, but I'm also young and I want to live my best life. So is there like a percentage breakdown on like how to navigate saving but not feing like depressed because you literally can't leave your house now?
Do you know what? If your mindset, I love this. If your mindset is you want to have property, you want to be an investor, you want to be an entrepreneur, you're not depressed because you're working towards your goal. Right. The thing is, for me, I've worked throughout pregnancies. I will film videos a day after giving birth. I will film while giving birth. I will edit on the train, on the plane. I will be at every shoot. You know, I've got my kids in bed by 8 o'clock and I'm working till 2 a.m. and I'm still up at 6. So I think for anyone who's deciding, and I'm not saying that that's what everyone should do. I've realized that I'm slightly manic and I'm extreme, but my extremeness has probably helped me get to the position that I'm in right about now. However, if you want balance, know that you're going to get to whatever your goal is slower, right? But, you know, if you budget, allocate an amount towards fun, allocate an amount towards your family, allocate an amount towards your investments. And then times that by how many years to work out, you know, how much you're going to need.
Yeah. Would you say like there's a particular percentage? Because I've seen like a few budgeting tips say it's like 50, 30, 20 or 30.
I don't know.
Do you do that? No.
Yes and no. I mean, you know, I was plug my budget tracker and I have my finance course.
We're gonna put that in our bio so you guys can cop that after this live.
Amazing. So what I'll say, right, is that it's not about a percentage. It's about, you know what, you work out what it costs you to live, right? Work out what it costs to live. That's an amount, because I can't say 50% of your income for an investment when you need to live on that 60% of your income. So look at paying off all your musts, right? All the things you have to pay, food, water, your roof, right? And then whatever's left, either save it all if you're really militant, or use that and, like, you know, spread it to where it needs to go, and also create an account for investing. But you
Right.
need to like live life, put a live life budget, and then the rest use towards where you know, your goals.
Right. Got it. We're gonna touch back onto the property and investments in a short while, but now I kind of want to take it back to side hustles, because a lot of, you know, us being able to save and for us to be able to even equip the lifestyle that we want and to save at the same time is about diversifying our income. And you recently did a video about all the different things that you could be doing during COVID to make extra money. You were doing YouTube. When was it that moment? Because you spoke about the break earlier, but was there a particular moment where you were like, okay, I need to do more than this? Like, what was, and when was that? And then what was that first extra side hustle that you now created outside of your career, YouTube, to then start making the first steps to producing a side hustle?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I had my job, and then I'll be honest, actually, a lot of my side hustles have come from passion, and I think it's quite important for it to come from something you're interested in. So I created White Hair, so that was my hair extension company. I was one of the first people in the UK to bring wigs to the UK. Like, no one was doing it back in the day. But I shut that business down, and we were making like £250,000. Like, we've done that easily, but you know, whatever. I was over it. I was like,
wait, okay. Can I go backwards a little bit? So you started a hair company.
Yeah.
And you were making £250,000 a year.
Not a year, but in total, we definitely did £250,000.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was the logistics behind that? Like, how did you make that happen?
How did that first happen? So, no, because let's take this back. I started wearing wigs in university. This is in 2006, 2009. No one was wearing wigs. The reason why I found a wig was because I remember there was an article about Beyonce that came out, and they were laughing at her hair because she had like creasing from what was called a lace wig. I was like, what's a lace wig? Then I Google searched, or it wasn't even Google, maybe it was like Yahoo. Search lace wig, found these Chinese manufacturers. Oh, and it might have been even from my forums. And I found this one guy, his name was Jeff Quee. Yeah, if you know, shout out to Jeff Quee. And he started sending me wigs. I was paying for a full lace wig. It was £82. Right? Back then, you can't get a lace wig for £300 anymore, right? And so I was like, these are great. Let me start selling them. So I used to get them for girls at uni back in the day. So that was a side hustle. I also used to do relaxers at home. I used to do weave. I used to do hair extensions for people. So I've always been doing something, right? And I've always loved hair and makeup. And then inevitably, I realized that I had my YouTube channel. I knew that, like, in America, all the girls were wearing in wigs and weaves, and no one in the UK was really doing it. So I set up and created White Hair, and I used that contact from this guy who I was buying random wigs from, and he had his own factory. And so I got him to ship me over wigs, but I learned about the process of like fulfillment, doing my own shoots, and, you know, using Shopify as a platform. So I kind of taught myself everything, but from the things I was interested in. And there's so much information on the internet. But I feel like I've digressed.
No. Do you know what? It's so important, because I think a lot of times those side hustles get built from that moment of curiosity, because it was like, what, for me, it's like, so just being like, yo, Beyonce, creased, lace, wait, where do I get this?
And it was like the media were actually laughing at her. They were like doing zoom in.
But you were thinking of a business plan,
and I was like, I need this.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I do feel like when people, because a lot of people were asking, how do I come up with a side hustle? But sometimes you can easily come up with that side hustle by just listening to that instinct or that curiosity, whatever sparking questions, whether it's from a product perspective or a service perspective. If you just listen to that just a little bit more and asked a few more questions, did a few more bits of research, you could probably come up with some sort of business idea just off the back of that.
Yeah.
And then what was
they say a business is fulfilling like a need or solving a problem. So and also a lot of people used to market hair by texture, say, oh, it's Brazilian, oh, it's Peruvian. And I hated this concept of telling people that hair is better because based on race. So we used to do hair based on texture patterns. So we had wide curve, curl, kink. I didn't want to say it's Brazilian or Peruvian because it was a marketing lie. And we didn't do that. So I knew that I wanted to bring something different.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what was the next hustle after that? Just out of curiosity, after Y hair.
I think it became the YouTube and the YouTube deals that I was doing, and lots of the speaking engagements, brand partnerships, speaking engagements. What else did I sell? I'm sure I've sold some other products. I just can't remember because, you know, my mind is, I'm often doing stuff.
Then you became an author.
Exactly, writing a book. So I ended up closing Y hair, and it's not because it wasn't profitable. It's just that I didn't have the commitment to to manage that brand entirely. And I also don't like being bought. So I didn't want to be another hair girl. So I was like, no, I'm willing to like let this go for greater things in the future.
Right. Oh gosh. Okay. Right. More questions. Let me go back. Okay, cool. So back to the property, right? Back to the property, because that's what they want.
Let's get there.
Right. So a lot of us want to know, and I don't know if there's an answer to this, but is there a particular amount of money that you should save to even consider starting your property journey? Is it 20,000, 30,000, 15,000? Like, knowing what it takes to get your first property, what do you think is a figure that you really should just be like, well, if you've got this in your account, start having the conversations?
So, okay. So
I know this is
I'm
subjective.
Gonna say, like, one of the questions I have is, why do people always want to choose property? Property is a very expensive, and I mentioned this before, it's a very expensive, illiquid form of investing. So if people want to invest, there are other opportunities to invest that are cheaper and more affordable, such as buying an index fund. So if you want to invest, you can put £20 on an index fund right now and it will grow, right? Or if you've got £1,000, you can put £1,000 into an index fund and it will inevitably grow.
What's an index fund? Sorry.
So it's a group of shares that follow the index. So if you don't want to, most of us shouldn't be picking and choosing shares because we're not that wise. But an index is basically picking the top shares, say on the S&P, or the Forex, not the Forex, sorry, on the S&P or on the FTSE 500. It's basically a portion of every single share on that particular stock market. So that means you're diverse, and this is gonna be really complicated, but you're diversifying your risk by buying an index fund.
Right.
But if you want to invest, this is a great way to invest. Just invest in an index fund. But going back to property, and I think everybody thinks that property is the answer. I think property is a really expensive answer if you can't afford it. However, if you can afford it, then rather than give you a particular number, I think you can do your own personal calculation. So if you want to buy a property, you need to look at how much of a deposit you have, right? So if you're going to buy a property for 80 grand, then you're going to need to have at least 8,000 or 16,000 pounds.
10 or 20%. Okay, cool.
10 or 20% for the property, right? And 20% is better. And then you need to be able to know that you have enough money coming in that if that property is ever empty, you can afford to keep that property afloat. Right. So it's rather a calculation, like how much do I guaranteed have coming in, and will I be able to afford this if for 2 months or 3 months if it's empty?
Interesting. And with that being said, so I'm sure there's loads of people from outside of London who are locked in, but for the Londoners, because it's so expensive to live here, would you advise that if we did want property to be our way of making investments, that we actually get a property outside of London that's a lot cheaper? Or should we just aim to just save it, suck it up, and just get something within London?
So no. So what you have to do is look at, if you're buying a property or investment, first thing to note is that your own home is not an investment. The reason why it's not an investment, if you buy a house to live in, you have to live in it. You can't sell that house, right? And then where are you going to live? On the street. your own home isn't really an investment, because you're always going to need to use it. You're using it as an asset.
Yeah.
So let's just get that out of the mindset that buying your
That's
own
so
home
true.
is
We always
an
think
investment. It's not.
I want to own my own first home as if that's going to be us getting on the property ladder, but not really.
For your own personal sake, yes, it's great for you as an individual. It's great that you're not spending the money elsewhere. It's great that it's giving you long-term security, but it's not an asset, because you can't make any money from it. You're not
creating money from it.
Unless you rent a room. So imagine you buy a property and then you rent out the room. Now it's an asset, because that room generates you revenue. But sorry, if you're looking for a property, what you want to look for is its long-term ability to grow. So in terms of if you've got it under market value, and if it's easy to be able to get tenants in that property. So you might be able to buy a house for 50 grand in the middle of, you know, some village in Ipswich. But if no one lives there, there's no rental market, then there's no point in having that house. There are literally, in the UK, there are streets of empty properties where there's like no one living in the houses, because there's just no community there. So you kind of need to look at the community. But London is not the only place to buy houses, for sure.
And would you advise, are there any like steps on researching areas or finding out tips and tricks on what areas are going to be highly sought after by renters, or are having, you know, developments around it? Like, is there kind of like a way to acquire this knowledge and research?
Yeah, so there's no one website, but what you want to do is you want to look out for companies who are building new offices, or where they're moving their offices, or you want to look at where train lines are being expanded to. So like there's all these rail extension lines. So where that line is going, you're going to have commuters on that line. So there's always, you know, that the opportunities there. Or assuming that, what's another thing that you can think about? You kind of need to be in the news and know what's going on from an overall economic perspective in the country you live in. But mainly what you're looking at is where there are jobs, or how people are able to get to jobs. Because if you're buying a home to rent, those people need jobs, you know, so to be able to pay you rent.
Got it. You spoke about how investing, for example, in index funds are a little bit more lucrative and easier in terms of risk, I suppose, than kind of acquiring a property and doing it that way. I know there's like it's ifs and buts, but I mean, I'm not really an investor. I think I downloaded Nutmeg here, and I think I signed up to Hargreaves and something over there.
Hargreaves and Lansdowne, yeah.
Okay, so I need help as well, because everyone's like, invest, but like,
I know.
Like, people are like, I bought stocks in Apple. How did you do that? So what are the platforms for beginner investors?
So Nutmeg would be considered a robo investor. Hargreaves Lansdowne is a brokerage. I believe they also do robo investing, or they invest on your behalf. It depends. Someone just mentioned mutual funds. Mutual funds are very expensive, actually. But someone mentioned Vanguard. So Vanguard is also an option out there. So what you need is a brokerage, right? A brokerage platform. And there's quite a few out there. So, and then what you want to look at doing is either picking stocks or picking an index fund. But you basically, a brokerage is a bank account, and you put your money into that brokerage, and there's a shop window with all the stocks and all the shares and all the index funds, and then you use your money, you buy one, and it goes into that brokerage account.
Okay. And basically, I'm not, when I you know, use these platforms to invest, I'm not trying to get money next year, am I? This is like not a 10-year, 20-year thing.
Exactly. And that's the same thing about property as well. Property is not a short-term investment. I think a lot of people think it is. It's not. Like, you have to hold property for the long run.
So how can I make quick money? I mean, like, what are the ways?
You know, quick money is possible. Quick money is so possible. All right, so I like this discussion actually. Quick money. So
I need money now. Like, what
yeah,
can I do to get that?
Right. And it sounds so bad, but you might need to use your hands right here, right now. So for instance, if you could do hair, I know someone who is doing basically 5,000 a week doing wigs. Okay, £5,000 per week.
This hair business.
What's she doing? She's doing it. She's there. She's sewing. It takes her time. She's up till 2 o'clock in the morning. But that is quick money, right? You can provide a service. I don't know. You can do tutoring. You can do events, which is what you kind of do as well.
Yeah.
How can you make it quicker is by increasing your rates or offering a premium service or offering a premium product. So if you find a gap or a need in the market, if you can turn it around, get a product quickly and sell it, you can make a quick buck as well.
Right. And I guess, you know, during COVID, we don't know how long this is going to last for.
Yeah.
Can you predict, based on just any experience or insight that you have, what it's going to look like now for the side hustle industry? Like, you know, a lot of people are being made redundant. A lot of people are being made unemployed or on furlough. So it's really unsettling now in terms of like money coming in, and then how am I going to make money? So can you give any advice on like how we can navigate through this uncertain period? Because
I think this is, if you're a good freelancer, this is your season. I have a girl who does editing for me. She's 19 years old. I give her at least $2,000 a month, right, for how many edits she does for me. She's 19 years old.
What edit do you need?
No, she does a lot of edits. She turns them around, and I know I'm not her only client. I know she's got a lot of clients. So she might be, for all I know, she might be turning around like 8K a month. But you know, again, she's a freelancer. She's efficient. She's proficient. She's quick. Like, if you can offer someone a professional service that takes time and effort off their hand, you are quids in. You're definitely quids in, especially like nowadays. I don't think companies are gonna be hiring too many full-time staff. So I've actually got a video on this coming out. Is you now need to be able to have a specific skill, a specific talent that is really valuable, which is definitely going to be in the digital space. So if you can code, if you can build websites, if you can do graphics, if you can edit videos, if you can translate, these are the things that are going to be really important, like going forward.
Right. And
like, it's got to be tangible. If you're woolly, those days are over.
Yeah, we actually have to pick up these skills and be good, like more than good, great at it moving forward.
Excellent.
I guess, you know, you mentioned in your last video that a recession is probably quite imminent, right? So, you know, with all this saving that we're then doing, are we actually even going to see any return?
No, so my video literally said that there's no returns on your savings. Your savings are going down. Your savings are actually becoming smaller, right? Because of inflation. So the value of your money in the bank with no interest rate on it, it's worth nothing, basically. And this is why I tell people to, not that I tell people, but I really believe in investing. Because at least if you can put money into an index fund or into stocks or shares, that there might be a 3% return in 5 years, which is better than 0 return today, but also your money is, you know, worth less. So it's actually going down. Right. So I think everybody needs to look at like starting to invest.
Okay. Woo, child, this is a lot. Okay. No, do you know what?
Sorry.
I feel like I'm learning as much as everyone else is. I think someone said that Mercedes is us and then Patricia is the expert. And so I'm just taking this all in as well.
I'm genuinely like not an expert. I'm genuinely learning. This is why I've made this platform. I want to, as I'm learning about how to invest, I'm going to tell everyone how to invest. I'm talking about interest rates and this kind of stuff so we can all do it together.
Please, let's do this. Okay, right. Now, a lot of us, you know, we want to save for properties, we want to invest, but what is stopping us is bad credit. Like, before you can even get a property, they're going to look at your credit score, as well as like debts and things like that. So have you got any advice on how to rectify your credit score? I'm not you might have just been really good at it, but just from observation, any advice on rectifying your credit score or getting yourself out of debt over a period of time? Any tips?
Yeah, so I didn't have amazing credit. I actually had, what's it called, moderate credit, or some people have excellent credit. I was not in the excellent credit category.
Okay.
The reason why I wasn't in the excellent credit category is because I didn't have any credit cards, right? I didn't have any credit cards, and I did take out a credit card once, I think when I was like 22, and I made a late payment, right? Or I was late. And so that impacted my credit score with the fact that I had zero credit cards. So there are a few like specifics. I can see my daughter like running outside.
Oh my God.
There are some specific steps that you can take. So being on the electoral register, I don't know. Electoral register, paying off any outstanding debts, or organizing some kind of payment terms. It sounds crazy, but actually taking out a bit of debt and then making small regular payments to it. So there's also this aspect of like your credit is impacted by how consistent you are. So make sure that you have maybe more credit cards or more diversified debt, but you're always paying into it.
Okay, got it. So I guess it's just about kind of either just building some sort of routine where you can be paying it off consistently, or even I think getting a bigger credit card to pay off all the little
or smaller ones.
Or smaller ones. Okay.
So like if you get like three £500 ones, and then you use £10 a month on each of those, and then you keep paying those £10 off, it makes you look like you have better behavior, I believe. Don't quote me on this.
No, do you know what? I did read somewhere that as much as we take out a credit card, we're actually only meant to use, I think, between 10 to 20% of the full balance in order, and we have to pay that off every month in order to be on good terms. But then the thing is, a lot of us get credit cards because we want to pay off something big, so how do we navigate that? Is it just we need to just not do it or not buy it? Because
how to navigate that is to increase your earnings. My rule is literally everyone just increase your earnings, diversify. If you're young and like me as like a mum of two, like you guys have got so much opportunity right now to sleep, to party, to do so much stuff. You can make money like at 2 a.m. It's okay, it's possible. Right. What else was I going to say? I can't remember. Just lost my train of thought. In terms of, you're using your credit to pay off for something big. The question is, do you really need that thing? Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think it's just kind of asking us, is it I think this period as well during COVID is making me really realize, is something essential or is it non-essential? Like, no shade, but I'm seeing people buy so much clothes.
Yeah, and people are buying it on, everybody watching this stream, none of you guys download that, what's it called, Klarna. Pay later for clothes. Nobody do that. I'm going to do a video against it. I think it's actually detrimental to tell people to buy clothing on credit. It's ridiculous. You can't eat clothes, but yeah, that's my rant.
I agree. I really, really do agree. So it's like non-essential versus essential. Like always, I guess, ask yourself, do I really need it? Is there rice at home? Is there clothes at home?
And I understand that there's times where you're gonna need to take money out because you just don't have the resources right now, right? I get it. It happens to everybody, and hopefully it doesn't have to happen to you, but you have to have a plan to pay that off. You have to have a way of how you're gonna work extra hard to keep that credit, that debt as low as you possibly can, because it just has a snowball effect and it has a long-term impact on people.
No, definitely. I guess another question that I have on the back of kind of
I'm loving these comments, by the way, guys.
They're going in. Spending versus investing in yourself, because sometimes I'm very torn between, okay, I don't want to spend, but I know I need to pay this girl £200 to re-edit this presentation, or I need to put another £500 into getting this website. So before you know it, I look at my bank statement and maybe like £800 to £1,000 has probably just gone on contractors. I'm justifying it because I'm like, I guess I'm investing in myself to get more money. But is there a balance? Is there some months where I'm doing too much? Like, how do you justify investing in yourself versus is it needed? Especially if you're
this is an excellent question, because actually I'm a big spender on the things that I think are going to help me grow in the future. And actually I've spent money and not had returns. Like there was a time I had 7 people working for me and there was no dime associated to what they were doing. And I realized, wow, this is a lot of salaries that, you know, I'm liable for. And by the time you got 8 contractors and you're doing all these projects, you're not getting the return you want. So what you have to do is a good form of forecasting. If you're going to put certain money or investment into an idea or something, you should decide what is the numerical return that you want out of that thing and when are you going to achieve it. And if you can't get clear on that, then don't do it. Just work on getting clear on your key KPIs, your key performance indicators, okay? If you're putting £20 in, how am I going to make £70 from that £20? How Sway? And then track it.
Right, I got it. This has been amazing. Oh my god, we've got 10 minutes left. Everyone, this live will be saved, don't worry. I'm seeing it said thousands of times. This live will be saved. Let's go into a few of the questions. A few people have actually put in a few questions here. Let me see.
Are you talking about in the chat?
Yeah. Oh god, I was gonna get to this, but let's do this now. What books guided you, Patricia? Please, can you recommend some? So I want to know, what were the books you've been reading, did read to fuel, you know, the hustle, the entrepreneurship, all of that?
I'm actually doing this video, but I'm actually like looking over here. So Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. It's Susan Jeffers. It's a good one because for me, it's not, I don't really read too many business books, but I do read a lot of books on mindset because I really need to like get myself into the right frame of mind to be successful. So Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I do like Tony Robbins. I've got his book, Money Masters the Game. Literally, it's right here in front of me. It is quite a hefty book and can be a little bit confusing, but it's worth a read if you're thinking about investing. And then there's also 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss as well. That's a really good one. And Mind Management as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, guys.
But these are really old school books. These are books that are like written like in the 80s or in the 90s, and I'm sure that there are really good ones now. Yeah, I like them.
Okay, we've spoken a lot about that. Okay, we haven't really touched on YouTube. So this is interesting. How can we grow on YouTube in 2020? Oh my god!
Oh yes, I am.
It should be her bedtime.
I love her.
Grace, do you want to come and say hi? Here's paper. Take the paper and go. I have a child. This is reality.
Hi,
Grace. Are you having a look?
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Is it your bedtime?
You are so beautiful.
Oh.
She's off. Close the door, please, Grace. Anyway, that's hashtag my reality. You're talking about.
So when you jumped on YouTube, it wasn't what it is now. I'm not saying YouTube is oversaturated because I don't feel like it can ever be. There's a market for everybody. But I guess, how do you grow? Like, what would be the steps? Or
now is the biggest time to grow.
Right.
Like when I came in, it was early. Now there's so much opportunity. If you have an interesting personality, if you have a niche, if you have a great way of delivering it, and if you have the determination to be consistent, it is possible to grow on YouTube. I've seen it happen. I've seen people blow up in a year and a half, 2 years. Like, it took me 7 years to get to 1 million followers. 7 years, not oh, I've been doing this for 2 years. 7 years I was doing this. So
are there any particular topics that you feel people are a lot more kind of easier to they latch onto it straight away? Because finance, the break platform is so different to, I guess, the lifestyle content that you've been creating. So I guess, is it easier to make create a big following and grow from like beauty and fashion and hair, or can you be quite nuanced and talk about finance? And
yeah, I think you can be nuanced. There's so many communities that you are not aware of. I found out about a guy who does 500 million views. His name is Jelly, right? Jelly. I don't know. I think he talks about Jelly and like Minecraft. He does 500 million views. He makes 20 million a month, right? So what you want to do is find your community and then find a group or a niche you want to be involved in and make the content what you want to make. So I think we can have this narrow view that, you know, especially as the girls, like, there's only makeup content. No, there are girls in gaming who are killing it out here. There are people in the music world who are killing it, who are not like music artists, but people who like review, what's it called? There's some guys that I started watching and they're like classical violin players, and they play in orchestras and they get 4 million views a video. Like, there's so many like niches. You just need to find a niche you're interested in and then create content in it. So not 20 million a month, 20 million a year. But yeah, check out this guy called Jelly, guys.
Anything mil, I'm like,
easy. 500 million views a month.
What would you then say, just to kind of round this up, what would you say, and then what kind of advice would you give? What would you say is stopping us from making the wealth that we could be making when it comes to either having a 9-to-5 or being an entrepreneur? Why don't people, I can't explain it, but it's like, you've done it. So is there something that stops, I guess, the average person from being able to see that 6-figure, see that 7-figure salary coming in every year? Like, what do you think it is?
There's a few things. So awareness, being aware that it's possible. And I think that was when I talk about the story of the girl who told me she made £40,000 a month, I did not think it was possible. When she told me that, it made me realize it was possible. And that's how I was able to achieve that, you know? It opened my eyes. So a lot of people don't know what possibility is out there. And the fact that there are people who make 10, 20 million pounds, yes, on a monthly basis, maybe that's, you know, something you need to know about to give you something to reach towards.
Right.
Number 2, I think it's impatience. So people want it today, but it doesn't happen today. People look at me today, but I've been here for the last 10 years. It's not new. Like, I've been around. I think maybe because people know me now, they're like, here she is. No, I've been here. So awareness, impatience, and then I think guidance. Like, some people just need a little bit of guidance to help them get there, and maybe people aren't able to get that guidance.
Right. You've got so many people who want to be your intern, by the way. So if you ever need one,
listen, my inbox is full.
Just scroll through.
Yeah, well,
And the last question, one thing that you wish you knew at 22, what would that be?
You know, I thought I was cocky at 22. I thought I was amazing. I'm not gonna lie. What was the one thing I wish I knew at 22? That oh my gosh. Maybe let me ask maybe at a younger age, because actually I was really confident at 22. I'm not gonna lie to you.
All right.
I was really
go younger.
you know, I've always been very hopeful. Like, I'm delusional. Maybe I'm similar to my mom, that I'm like, it's fine. At 22, I was like, ooh, this is great. But maybe like when I was like 17 or 18, I'd say that I wish that I knew that I didn't have to try to fit in to be like everybody else, and that even though I was maybe slightly different or slightly awkward, I didn't have to be bound by the circle I was in. I didn't have to feel pressure to be like the circle.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Patricia Bright, you have made my day, my month, my year. Honestly, having you on this live was like, can I do it? And here we are. I thank you so much for just giving us an hour of just so much wisdom, knowledge, empowerment. It's been truly an amazing session. I hope everyone in the comments has loved it. I know you guys had so many questions, but it's actually impossible to get through all of them. So I hope we managed to touch on some of the themes that you guys were concerned about. And like I said, make sure you're following the Break platform. If you're coming through SocialFIXT, make sure you're following her, because they're giving us real tea and real guidance into how to navigate through life. Patricia, thank you so much, honestly.
Thank you for having me. This was great. You know, I can talk for forever. So yeah,
I know.